I'm your host, Steve Matley. We're coming to you on KCAA all over Southern California. If you're outside the listening area or you miss us live, you can catch us on your favorite podcast platform. You can go to kcaaradio.com. We're in the archives, or best of all, you can find us streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire, or on the Android. Look for the Building Solid Foundations channel. That's a free download for you, Building Solid Foundations channel. This show and a lot of great shows are on that you can check out. Good information from a lot of different great hosts and great people. In fact, my guest today hosts a show on KCAA that's on those podcast platforms and on the streaming. Dr. Sharon Barnes is with us today. Dr. Sharon Barnes is someone I've known for a while. She combines more than 30 years as a former attorney, entrepreneur, business owner, consultant, and real estate professional. She provides knowledge and resources to propel her clients to the next level. At ADU Advantage, she educates, trains, supports, and helps people to develop the real estate that you already own and control. Drawing from years of experience, her company has the experience to elevate the knowledge base of the community regarding the process of building accessory dwelling units. And if you don't know what those are, she's going to explain why you need to know what they are if you own a home and why you should care and how you can profit from them. Dr. Sharon Barnes, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Steve. It's such an honor to be here with you.
And I forgot to mention, you're also a host of the International Wealth Builders. Is that correct?
Yes. We air on 10:50 a.m. on the first Saturday of the month at 1 o'clock now, where I focus on accessory dwelling units and bring in local talent and resources to help educate people.
Fantastic. So you want to tune into there to Dr. Sharon and hear her when she is hosting the International Wealth Builders Association broadcast right here on KCAA. So let's talk about your initial experience, your background. You were an attorney. You practiced law for about 25 years. And that's how you kind of got into real estate. Is that correct?
Yeah. That was kind of my journey. The aerospace is kind of where I cut my teeth at. I've been working since I was 14. I don't know how many people might remember the CETA program, but the CETA program, I think, was put in place by President Nixon, and it was to help at-risk youth and so forth to get jobs, summer jobs or whatever. And I always say that, I never got hired by McDonald's or Jack in the Box or anybody. It was always an office. So I worked in legal aid. I worked at General Dynamics when I was in high school. And that was my first introduction to aerospace, working with engineers, logistics support, and so forth. And then I went to Cal State Fullerton, and it came time to do my internship, and I got the job at Northrop, and I was trained by Redstone Arsenal military out of Alabama to teach me how to convert one of our defense weapons from matrix to American dynamics and so forth. So it was very interesting. And it's one thing about aerospace and different industries. When you get into an industry, no one seems to understand what you do except somebody else in that industry.
That's right.
So from General Dynamics to the internship at Northrop, my first job landed me back at General Dynamics.
Okay.
And so I went back to General Dynamics in Pomona, and I worked there. And after working a year or so, I decided that I did not want to be punching the clock till I was 65 years old and coming into that environment. So I wanted to go and continue my education. And a lot of people were nudging me to go towards law school. And I was thinking about my MBA. But I felt like, okay, let me go for law school. If that doesn't work out, I can go back and get my MBA. So that's how I ended up going the law school path and going from there.
Fantastic. Now, my dad worked in aerospace. That would have been back in the late 50s, through the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
He'd come out of the military as a pilot, and he went into aerospace during the space race in the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
Worked for, he said back then, that you worked for a lot of different companies because you went wherever the contracts went.
Exactly.
And he said the joke was, don't go to lunch without updating your resume.
Yeah, and the one thing I learned working with a lot of military people, you could kind of tell. Now, I love coffee now, so that's my drug of choice. I love coffee, and I think that's due to my aerospace background, but you could tell which branch of the military is making the coffee. Okay, there's different stuff.
So he worked, and he told me I didn't understand what he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was back then they didn't have IT, they had DP. data processing. Right?
Yeah, right.
Back
right.
in those punch cards
Right.
and those kind of things.
Right.
So he was working on stuff, and the only thing he ever told me that was specific was back when they were working on the rockets, early days of the space program. They'd send these things up in Florida, and they'd land in pieces in the Atlantic Ocean when they didn't go right.
Right.
And they'd collect kind of the black box thing, and they'd fly it across the country. You get the phone call that you had 2 hours to get down to the plant, and of course, then they didn't have freeways in LA that much. So you had to drive Rosecrans or whatever streets to get down there to get the west side.
Right.
All these companies were on the west side of LA then. And you go down there, and they pull us out. In those days, they didn't have the computer monitors like we have now and the really intuitive systems. They would go byte by byte, the on, off, and decode what had gone wrong. That's what they were doing. And they basically run, it was like a magnet that basically, I guess, had the little things that would stand up or lay down. That's how it worked.
Right.
Old school analog kind of computer stuff, But that's what they were doing.
Right.
And you realize that's the technology that got us to the moon. That's crazy.
I know. And there's a lot of things in aerospace that we really just don't understand. And when I started working here, and I was like young, when I got to Northrop, and on the Northrop I worked on like the F-16, the F-20, and the B-2 and different things like that. But it was just very interesting, the technology, and the training that we had. We think about our workforce today, and some of those young people could not have done what I've done now. We couldn't get up and go to the restroom without locking up the cabinets. You couldn't have any transistors in the building. And I remember one call from my mother, because we were they have the company picnics at the park right behind the building, right? And so my mother called, and she's on the phone, and she says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine. I'm at work." I just answered. She said, I said, "Why?" She said, "It's on Channel 7. The building's on fire." And I'm like, "No." She said, "No, that building that you told me you worked in across from the park, it's on fire across the street. We're looking at it right now on Channel 7. And I'm sitting in that building. And then all of a sudden the phones went dead, because everybody's parents started calling them. And so they cut off the switchboard. And then we said, okay, well, let's just go to the restroom. When we walked out of our bay, the whole bay was sealed off. Oh. And that's when I learned the few for the many. We did not need to know what was going on down there. They had isolated us. We need to keep working, and they were taking care of the rest of it.
You're not in danger. Keep working.
Yeah. Hey, not your part of the ship. Just go back to work. So there's a lot of things that we've gone through, and that was in the 80s. So Lord knows what we're dealing with now.
Yeah. And I remember that facility out there. I lived in Ontario at the time, and I remember that facility out there. Actually, quite a few people that worked at General Dynamics were in my cohort at University of La Verne.
Oh, yes. Very familiar with La Verne.
Yeah. So, so then you became an attorney, and you then moved from attorney to real estate. So what was that transition like?
Well, that transition had a couple little things. I worked my way through law school, working there at Northrop, working all the overtime and everything I could do to work through law school and go to school at night. And then when the first cases I did was against the Department of Defense for security violations, 2 cases, and I won both of those cases. So I was off to a great start. But the aerospace is kind of like a lot of the industries. It has its ups and downs. And so when we were kind of falling off after the B-2 was declassified and so forth, I got my first job with a personal injury medical malpractice defense firm in Riverside. And I started working there. And it was a great firm. But a couple years after working, I did have a medical issue. I got diagnosed with lupus, attacked my kidneys. And so I had some issues, but the firm kept me on. And they had some major cases, but then the firm had to reorganize as well. I ended up going out on my own, because after having medical issues and having a special needs child, it was that you're a major impact on anybody's insurance. And so it was hard to get a job. I couldn't convince anyone I could work 40 hours for them with my medical condition and my child, but I could work 80 hours for myself. So
that's true.
I started my own law firm. I went in with a couple ladies. We had one of the first African-American law firms in Riverside there, and where the Riverside County Bar Association was located. That lasted for a while, but I ended up, on my own and going, through the legal practice for a while, and it was my clients, mortgage brokers, developers, investors, who kept urging me to get my real estate license so I could add more value to their projects that they had across the country.
Okay, so you went to, now which law school did you go to?
I graduated from Western State School of Law over in Fullerton. I attended Southwestern LA and transferred to Western State in Fullerton.
Okay.
So I graduated from law school right across the street from where I graduated from Cal
they're
State.
almost the same block. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
My circle was small, came full circle.
That's fascinating. It's funny because mine was the opposite. I started with University of La Verne up in Ventura County on a satellite program at Point Mugu. Ended up attending the main campus for a while, and I actually took classes out at Ontario at the Frito-Lay plant out there.
Oh, okay. I know that
so
is.
it's kind of all
the
over
Coca-Cola
the place.
Yeah.
In one program.
Right.
Yeah. And I kind of did the same thing when I my MBA with Chapman. I started in the Coachella Valley, took in San Diego, and finished up at the main campus in Oregon. But see, I came out of the industry where we had to go where the work was. In construction, you go where the real estate
exactly.
is. We're going to take a break. We're going to come right back after this short break. We're talking to Dr. Sharon Barnes, and we're going to get into what ADUs are and why you care later on in this broadcast. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Dr. Barnes' transition into the real estate world and why she did that and how that worked out for her. And I'll give you a hint, she's still in it, but in a very special niche now. This is Building Solid Foundations. We'll be right back after this short break.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections. Hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Solid Foundations Radio.
Hi, this is Jim McLaughlin with Effective Action Consulting, and I've been a member of Fire Up Connect for, probably 3 years now. And what I really like about Fire Up Connect is the unique model that we go through, that we follow, the agenda, so to speak, in the meeting that really has us get engaged and involved with each other in the meetings. It's not that we're individuals, it's that we're all really working together to better ourselves, our businesses, and the community through the projects that we work on. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to network with people in this environment, and it's really impacted my business in a big way. So take a look.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. This is your host, Steve Matley. We are talking to Dr. Sharon Barnes today. We've been walking through kind of her background in aerospace and law, but really what we're going to get into is her experience in real estate. I do want to throw this out. If you hear something very fascinating that Dr. Barnes mentions and you want to talk to her, get in touch with her, her email is eduadvantage, CA, ADU Advantage CA, like California, at gmail.com, or you can go to advantagenow.com, advantagenow.com, advantagenow.com. That's her website, and find information if you want to get in touch with her. She's also on LinkedIn. You want to look for Dr. Sharon Barnes, and she's also on Facebook. You can search her out there if you want to connect with her and find out more about her. And she's on Instagram also, see what she's up to. I know she's up to a lot. She also hosts that International Wealth Builders Association broadcast here on KCAA, first Saturday of the month, correct?
Yes.
First Saturday of the month in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, I believe. So you want to check out that broadcast. And if you miss anything, we're on the streaming and we're on the podcast platform. So check us out on the Building Solid Foundations channel, catch anything you missed. All right, Sharon, so we get into where you get into real estate now. So talk to us about what led you into real estate. And I guess, what you did in real estate before you got into your specialty that you're in now.
Oh, okay. So what got me into real estate was basically some of my legal clients. I was working in law. I did a variety of things. Like I said, I got my first job working with medical malpractice and personal injury. When I went out on my own, my passion, my community, what I started doing is working with emerging business owners. So I started working on entrepreneurs that had dreams that needed to lay that foundation in a formal business. You know, they need not only the business formation, but they needed the infrastructure. Because of my background in aerospace and getting qualified with the the acquisition regulations and government contracting and all that, I could help people who were going after government contracts, going out to understand the scope of work, understanding compliance issues, putting the contracts together, and so forth. And so in doing that, a lot of people were coming in at the time because of the way we were in the government area in real estate, and they were getting money to, like we need now, provide for housing, do developments. And so I started working with mortgage brokers, developers, investors. They had projects across the country. They had projects locally in California. And so not only helping them put together partnership agreements and joint venture agreements and those type of things, but actually helping them grow, you know, like I said, emerging businesses, trying to make sure they have a solid foundation. I already believe informed decisions and a solid foundation. So helping them lay that out. And so they were urging me to get the real estate license. And what, you know, I tell people now too, as an attorney, I mean, I could collect the legal fees, but I could not participate in a share of the profits or the commissions without that real estate license. Right. And so on the other side too is that some of the small business owners, they would put their businesses together and they needed to lease out and find commercial office space or whatever, and then something had to go. So getting into real estate was a value added service. Okay. And it opened up a lot of opportunities.
All right. So this would have been early 2000s, is that right?
Yes. But about the mid 2000s, about 2007, 8.
Okay, so that's right when the real estate market was making a big shift.
Yeah, it was making a big shift. It's like I put my foot in it and the money went out of it. But I really got into real estate, like I said, urging the clients, and it was towards the commercial end, because those were the same professionals I had been working with in law. Those was the projects. Those put together the skill set I had as an attorney and be able to be a benefit in another industry and so forth. So I really got into go down that commercial real estate path. However, economy changed, stuff happened, and most of the commercial clients that I had locked up shop and went home trying to hold the house down. Right. And so, I got into residential real estate. And now one of what some people terms is res-mercial. I do residential and commercial real estate.
Okay. And I'm assuming the residential you got into at that point in time, if that's during the shift, that was a lot of distressed properties.
There were a lot of distressed properties, a lot of short sales. Again, I was trying to help the community, and so trying to help people get the best result for the situation that they were in.
And it's an interesting thing, because I know during that time there were people that they were genuinely trying to help people, but they were perceived as predators, because they would try to talk to people, you're losing the house. Right. You're losing it. And there's no way to avoid that at this point. Right. So can I talk with you about how maybe there's a way to salvage this and either, maybe buy it, rent it back to you, or if you can't afford that, at least get you out with dignity and get you some money in your pocket so you're not just on the street broke. Yeah. And a lot of the people that would not take that as I'm trying to help you. They took it as a vulture coming in.
And they didn't believe. I mean, I think we're dealing with that now with the housing shortage. I have to tell my clients all the time the housing shortage is real. And if you own something, that's where, we get into the ADUs and we'll talk about that. Yeah. But it was the same thing back then. It's like the education. And then by the time you finally grasp the truth, you're calling us for help, and it's 2 weeks before the sale. I mean, people have been trying to help you all along. Now it's 24 hours and you got to go, and it's too late. And so understanding the reality of where you are and being able to make informed decisions and balance things out. It was a problem, and we're still having some of those problems today.
Right. So housing shortage is in fact real. And okay, so we hear all these clickbait headlines,
Right.
all the stuff, and real estate's dying. It's the next big catastrophe. It's 2006 7 all over again. I haven't seen evidence of that. We're not in a similar situation whatsoever. That was a whole different situation back then. There is economic issues, more not like it was in the early to mid 2000s, more like it was, I would say, in the late 1970s, early 1980s, right? Where it's the very high inflation and the higher, not
Yes.
high interest. We're not at interest rates at 18%.
But when I bought my first house at 16%.
Which was a bargain back then because
Right,
it had been
exactly.
up to 18 or 19%.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, historically, the interest rates are still on
Right.
historical. If you're looking at the last 50 to 70 years, it's historically low still.
Yep.
We're on the
Yep.
low side. And, anything lower than about 8.5% is considered low.
That's
Really.
it. Yeah.
People have short-term memories. They don't understand that.
And they
you
don't
have
realize that the interest rate they're carrying in their pocket is a lot higher than what they're living in.
Well, that's the other thing.
Okay.
They have no problem spending 24% on a credit card.
Okay, exactly. But you don't want to spend 10% to invest in a property that'll generate 7% on a return on the rental income. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
or-
not
or-
simple math, but you need to
Yeah,
understand.
and even if it's not an
Yeah.
investment, just to live
Yeah,
in.
just
Because
to live in.
real estate's not just an investment; it's a
Right.
home.
Exactly.
And I tell people, they say, "Well, you should never really buy your own home. It always should be an investment sort of thing." I said, "No, you want to buy your own home because there's appreciation there. If you're
Yes.
not everywhere,
Yes. Yeah.
probably not in some parts of North Dakota or something,
Yeah.
but for the most part,
Right.
in populated areas, it is.
Right.
It'll appreciate.
Right.
But aside from that, isn't it nice to live in a place where they're not going to sell it out from under you, and you got 30 days to
Exactly.
move? Isn't
Exactly.
it great not to get permission to change something, to add
Right.
something, to do something different?
Right.
You don't have to worry about painting a room or putting holes in the walls or something. It's your house.
Yeah.
And you get to you build your memories there. You have something to pass to your kids if you want to.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily have to be an investment. That can just be because it's your home.
Exactly.
And so then the other stuff you do can be investments, or the house can end up being investment.
Right.
But I always kind of caution real estate investors that not everything in real estate is just about the spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Your own
Exactly.
personal residence is your home. It's your
Exactly.
family. It's your memories. It's your home. It's your base. It's
Exactly.
your stable. It's your stability is what it is. And so we have to look at things differently. And I only say that because I know there's some of the gurus out there that say
Yeah.
other things about the whole thing. So you get into the residential side of the real estate. It's changing. People are losing homes. There's a lot of distressed property. At that time, there was kind of a glut of houses, technically. More homes available than there were people to buy them. Now, despite the fact that we're supposed to be in some kind of a downturn, we still have a very bad shortage of homes. In fact, the statistics keep coming out showing us that we're still slightly into a buyer's market. We're not, seller's market. We're not in the buyer's market yet. We're still slightly on the seller's side. And even though it's relieved a little bit because people have moved or people have they don't qualify anymore, so they just go to rent and forget it. There's still a shortage, and the
Right.
numbers are shockingly high.
Yeah.
And affordable housing. So that's the other thing. When you have a
Right.
shortage, nothing's going to be affordable,
Exactly.
right? So this water bottle here, if it turns out that we're on a desert expedition and all of our supplies of water fell out the back of the truck and nobody knew it, and then we've got 50 people and I got the only water bottle,
Exactly.
it's worth more than gold, right?
Exactly.
Because of shortage.
Exactly.
So that's where the housing is right now. And the idea of how do you make things more affordable? Well, you can, one, move to an area that you don't want to be in. There's no jobs. There's no shops. There's no schools. There's no amenities. So, yes, you can get inexpensive property out in the middle of nowhere in the desert.
I don't know how far you have to go now.
It's pretty far. But like I said, you can move to states. You can move to
Right.
North Dakota
Right.
and Montana and places
Right.
like that.
Right.
Middle of
Right.
Nebraska or something.
Right.
Not that those are bad places to live. They just
Right.
don't have job centers and that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
So you can do that. You can move where there's horrible weather, or you can smaller square footage. That's the other way. Is can I find something that's smaller square footage and a little more dense, where multiple people live on the same piece of real estate. And so we're going to get into that in our next segment, and that's exactly what we're going for is your niche you're in now, which is the accessory dwelling unit. So we're going to come right back with Dr. Sharon Barnes. We're going to talk about ADUs and why you care and what it means to you, whether you're a renter or if you're a homeowner that could use this to make some money. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley, and we'll be right back after This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio Talk Show. I spent decades as a professional construction man building Solid Foundations Radio.
Hey guys, it's Damon, Mr. Foxy, Damon Hart, and I'm here with the real men of real estate. And I just want to say, hey, come and watch us this Sunday, 1 p.m. live, every Sunday. Okay, we're going to be on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. If you got a minute, just tune in. We can't wait to have you here. I'm going to be there. If you can't make it on there, we're going to be at Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or Android app on Building Solid Foundations channel. So tune in. You know what you got to do in the meantime. Keep it foxy.
Hello! Welcome to Fire Up Connect. Are you a small business owner? Do you lack the resources to manage your business? Is visibility and brand awareness a top priority for you? Fire Up Connect is a community of small business owners. We help our members find the right connections and the right resources to help them be successful. This isn't your typical business networking group. Members of Fire Up Connect are innovative, driven, and all about building long-lasting relationships. We work to identify your goals and understand what it is you do and how we can help you brand yourself and your business. Fire Up Connect is about creating business opportunities, community projects, educational sessions, and live seminars to help implement effective marketing programs for our members. Fire Up Connect helps members gain validation in their businesses, learn what challenges similar business leaders are facing, and access to subject matter experts on how to overcome these challenges. Fire Up Connect offers opportunities for organic exposure through our many marketing events, programs, and projects. There are 4 colors that make up Fire Up Connect. Yellow represents the back office and services available to Fire Up Connect members. Red represents Fire Up Connect's marketing and advertising resources, such as TV shows, radio, magazine book publication, and movie projects. Green represents Fire Up Connect's referral system, tracking incentives, and blue represents Fire Up Connect's donation, fundraising, and scholarship programs. Fire Up Connect members have access to monthly business sessions, price discounts on affiliated companies, and all Fire Up Connect programs, book publications, published articles for your business, access to Fire Up Connect scheduled webinar events, a photo shoot session, and a video production. Join us for our annual Fire Up Live seminars and gain valuable connections in the Fire Up community and boost your business. We believe in your business. We believe in what you do. At Fire Up Connect, we believe in you. Join us for our annual Fire Up Live seminars to gain, discover, and get fired up.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Most mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station, KCAAradio.com.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today we're talking with Dr. Sharon Barnes. We were talking about her background, how she got into real estate, and what that market looked like when she got into it, which was a challenging time. It's obviously come back. Some people think it's gone down again, but it really hasn't. Not in my experience. It's a little slower than it was, but honestly, the demand is still there. And I know for the new construction slowed down quite a bit, but it looks like it may be coming back again. And I think most of that was perception. One thing you want to look at when you look at how's the market doing, and we look at, okay, what are the home builders doing? home builders are one measure, but understand that most of the home builders that are the large ones, they're publicly traded corporations. They're a little more concerned about share price than about a profitable project, because if everybody thinks the market may be turning down in the near future because of the headlines and reports and studies that come out, even if it doesn't, if they go and buy a bunch of land to build on, it could be perceived as a bad decision and their share price could drop, and they have a much more danger of losing value that way than getting into a bad project. So understand that. Your smaller regional builders aren't like that. They're more project driven. And so I think we'll see more activity from them before we see from the larger builders, but we'll see what happens. It looks like it's coming up. I will say I was at the International Builder Show, which is the home builders conference, the biggest in the country.
Right.
It's huge. There was 110,000 people out there attending. It's the biggest crowd they've had since 2006 or 7. So that not indicative of an industry that believes they're in a downturn.
Exactly.
Right? Spending that kind of money to do that. So let's get into this whole idea of an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. What it is, where can we use them, and why is it such the hot topic right now? It is the thing.
Yes. I just came from the Tiny Home Fest, looking at some of not only the tiny homes, which are basically, I'll just say, on wheels, and some of the great modifications people have done to vehicles and so forth, but also where we're going with the ADUs on controlling costs, being energy efficient and so forth. And personally, I've got into ADUs probably now about 4 years or more ago. I was in a networking opportunity. I was chairman of the Black Chamber of Commerce Inland Empire, and we had person came and they were doing a challenge, a cohort to help take your business to the next level. And I took advantage of that opportunity. When I'm sitting in this class to take my business from where it is to the next level, they said I need to focus on one area of real estate. And it's very hard for me to put myself in a box. So I'm sitting up there trying to see what area I would focus on. And just so happens that a lady who was sitting next to me was a past client of mine in the legal arena. I had helped her open a Curves, a restaurant, several commercial buildings and so forth, and we networked together in the same community. And she shared with me the story of one of her friends who had recently got hired by a company that was based out of Los Angeles that was converting detached garages into accessory dwelling units, was sharing part of the rental income with the homeowner, and was doing this at no cost to the homeowner. Oh, wow. And I'm like, wow.
That's a great little niche.
I'm like, wow. I said, this is what my community needs. I mean, we got the oldest houses in the Inland Empire. We got some of the largest lots. We got financial challenges. I mean, it just like opened up my eyes. And she was like, you heard of accessory dwelling units? I'm saying, I kind of heard of them. And I remember being in an investment meeting and they kept saying ADU. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I had to raise my hand. It's like, I know I'm in real estate and I should know that term, but what is the ADU?
That's the old,
okay.
From, what was the TV show? What you talking about?
Yeah, what you talking about? Like, I can't be too embarrassed to, you need to ask these questions. And so that kind of opened up the portal, and I actually went through that challenge, focusing on accessory dwelling units. And I just focused on one of the things that really hit me was that they had did like a one at a time count they do at the first of the year for the homeless. Mm-hmm. And so they had did this count in the area, and they said that over 70% of our homeless population was over 55 years old. And that just really hit me, because I'm thinking, 55, we got people, they worked, they've served, their parents, their grandparents. What's going on here, And then they said that there was like a 10% increase, and then we have kids that are living in cars with their parents and so forth, and it just really hit. It's like we have to do something. And yes, rent is high, but we own property. And at that time, I think it was, around the time we were going through the election, and they were talking about what $600 would do for a family. And if you look at that model that they were doing in Los Angeles, like, okay, you can actually get an ADU, convert to a garage, especially the detached, because not very many people I know drive past their house to go into a detached garage to come back. We use it for storage, or we don't do anything with it. And so I
think most garages, even if they're attached, become storage lockers.
Yes. So to convert that And if you're able to convert that and being basically a joint partnership with someone that can guide you, help you, and put it under property management and give you an extra $500 to $1,000 a month in income, I just thought was fantastic. And I was just going down that hole. And I got a lot of compliments, and the investors and stuff was very interested. But what they couldn't figure out is how on a one-off investors would make money. So we had to look like larger. So that concept, I know a company in Oregon who did that, and I really want to talk to that owner to kind of see if we can implement something here. But the accessory dwelling units, I just think it's the best way to leverage California property. And I think that during COVID and with the lockdown, a lot of people, we start thinking differently about our living situation, how we take care of our loved ones. And even now, for the last couple years that I've been working with some companies that do ground up and do ADUs, and talking to my community, that we have a lot of people that are building those homes for their parents. And the parents usually have a house to sell. Then they want to put the parents in the backyard. We don't want to go through looking through, glass anymore, not knowing what's going on with our loved ones because of things that we realized. We saw how vulnerable we were during COVID. And so a lot of people are building them. So the numbers don't necessarily work for an investor when you're building for your mother. But as I tell people, though, sometimes, depending on what kind of income your parents have, you have to charge them rent. And as I tell a lot of people, especially renters sometimes, it's like, there's nothing in your rental agreement that says that when you collect the rent, you have to pay your mortgage, okay? You can do what you want to with that money. So you can charge your mother the money, put it in a special account for her, send her to bingo, pay for her maid, pay for her housekeeper, do whatever you need to do. But we need to leverage the property that we already own and control to change the wealth dynamic and the living situation for our family.
Well, and if they're moving out of one of those, my partners, I started calling them COVID prisons.
We learned a lot during COVID. Yeah,
but if they're living in one of those aren't cheap.
Yeah. No,
those
are
are
not.
expensive. And so my guess is it's much less expensive to pay there and offset the cost of that conversion or building the ADU in the back than it is to continue living in that senior center.
Yeah.
If they're living in your backyard. And remember, in the old days, that's not a new idea. That's an old idea coming back around. They used to be called granny flats.
Exactly.
And they were called granny flats because that's where your grandparents lived.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes they were called mothers-in-law quarters.
Yeah.
I guess that meant you didn't want your mother-in-law in the house with you. But
but now, I mean, all those things were designed. You still had to depend on the main structure, but even with the ADU laws now, when we go back to 2017, when it really started, they started with not affordable housing in mind, but with the upper echelon being able to build these houses on their property, remove some of the barriers so that their parents could stay there or their adult kids could stay there, not necessarily for rental income. But right now, with the homeless crisis, with the cost of property in California, the government basically realized it needs to be all hands on deck. The big builders can't build us out of this. We have to have everybody on deck to help. And so it's really educating people to leverage what they already own and control. You increase your retirement, create those college funds, put it in a trust, put it in a business. But we have to take advantage. I mean, investors will go to another state to buy something for $200,000 that was built in 1920. Yeah. You can build something for $200,000 in your backyard in California, get more appreciation on your property, help your family better, and create housing that's much needed.
Yeah, and of course the problem with relying on the big builders that means you've got to start with empty land, which has to be fully entitled and approved, and then you've got to build all the infrastructure, and then you've got to build the houses and all the stuff.
And when we do that in California, then that's about $800,000.
Yeah, which is what my company does that. Yeah. We do that for builders,
right.
And for ourselves. But you can have a couple of builders each build 200 to 300 homes, or you can get a couple of thousand people with property that have space in it to each build one little ADU, and you've got the same impact of providing that many housing. Now, not everybody can live in a small ADU. a family of 6 isn't going to live in one of those. But an ADU doesn't necessarily have to be a little 1-bedroom tiny home.
Yeah.
There are ADUs that go up that are actually another 3-bedroom houses if the lot is large enough to support it.
Yeah.
It has to be large enough in area, but also have the utility capacity.
Exactly.
The sewage and the power. The power is easy to do, but the sewage and the water supply and those kind of things. Sometimes you separate meters and stuff. And it is a good solution to provide additional housing. And I've always thought, if you have people on the street, what if each of those people, whoever their family is, now not of them all have family, but if they do, what if their family was able to take that person off the street?
Exactly.
And you can multiply that by how many hundreds of families, and you could dramatically reduce that population if you could. Obviously, it's more complex than just that because there's issues with mental capacity and drug addiction and those kind of things. But so for people that just are out there because they simply can't afford to rent something, that could be a solution. We're going to have to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about trying to wrap this up on ADUs and talk about what Dr. Sharon is working on now and how she's providing that solution in real time. Right now. This is Steve Matley on Building Solid Foundations. We'll be right back after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Solid Foundations Radio.
Hey guys, it's Damon, Mr. Foxy, Damon Hart, and I'm here with the real men of real estate. And I just want to say, hey, come and watch us this Sunday, 1 p.m. live, every Sunday. Okay, we're going to be on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. If you got a minute, just tune in. We can't wait to have you here. I'm going to be there. If you can't make it on there, we're going to be at Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or Android app on Building Solid Foundations channel. So tune in. You know what you got to do in the meantime. Keep it foxy.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. This is Steve Matley. We're talking to Dr. Sharon Barnes today. We've been talking about her journey through her life into real estate and eventually specializing in accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs. If you want to get hold of Dr. Sharon, there's several ways you can do that. One is you can go to aduadvantageca@gmail.com, aduadvantageca@gmail.com. That's her email. You can connect with her, ask her questions, ask her for information. You can find her on LinkedIn, look for Sharon Barnes. You can find her on Facebook, look for ADU Advantage California. Find her on Instagram, also at Advantage I believe that's ADU Advantage California, also ADU Advantage CA. ADU Advantage CA. So find that on Facebook, Instagram, and then you can find Realtor Sharon Barnes on LinkedIn. So check that out, connect with her, ask her questions. She has been around the block enough to know what's going on, and an early adopter of ADUs back when nobody else knew what they were. So I know it's a trend now, but if you work with the people that have been there since the beginning, they've been there and made the mistakes and learned the lessons, and they know what's going on. Now, Dr. Sharon, there was the California legislature passed some laws about a year and a half ago or so, made things a little bit easier to work with doing ADUs. And I know that you're involved in a Tiny Fest and some other things you're doing because the tiny homes are a great fit for ADUs. There are prefabbed units that you can just pull into the backyard and hook up. kind of park model type stuff that you can use. So what are you working on right now? How are we implementing this right now?
Well, right now, under my company, ADU Advantage, I have basically two prongs. I work with homeowners and investors to be a resource hub, an educational hub, to keep them up with the new laws and to help, walk them through the process. Because the ADUs, one of the things on my side that really utilize my skill set is it takes into that attorney with all the contract understanding, the ability to decipher and tell you what's required, because now with homeowners, most of the ADUs are being built by homeowners, and we've never built anything before. And so even though it's on a smaller scale, there's a lot of moving parts. And you need to put together a good team. You need that architect, that contractor, that property manager. You got to deal with the city. You got to get permits. But I'm the consultant that can hold your hand and walk you through to make sure your team is there and that you understand what's going on while you let the contractor and architect do what they need to do.
So I did a show a couple of weeks back, and I was talking. It was just a solo show. And I was answering the question that I get a lot from people: how do I get started in real estate? What do I do first? Where do I begin? And my whole point was build your team.
Exactly.
Go identify the experts you need. And I was telling them, these are the kind of experts you need. You need a legal expert, you need design and construction experts, and those kind of things down the list, insurance.
Exactly.
But a person like you is a one-stop shop where, having been there, you know exactly what team they need to build.
Yeah, because the ADUs can be, like we mentioned before, a garage conversion, whether it's attached or detached. There are some people that do that. They don't do ground up,
That's right.
The one that do the ground up construction does not do the conversions.
And the prefab units are a different thing too.
And the prefab. And ADUs are going to be with us, and we need to, we're talking basic right now in this arena, we're talking basic garage conversions, detached or attached structures from ground up or modular and those type of things. But we got 3D printing on the way. We got eco-friendly using plants to build. We got all kind of stuff
There's
coming.
panelized systems.
It's panelized. There's everything, and we can't get our head around converting a garage for sustainable living. Okay, and to make it affordable. And so we need to grasp this. And I just think that the people who have the biggest need also own some of the property, and they just need someone to help them lay out the plan and to walk it out. So one thing I'm doing on a pre-feasibility plan is to give them a picture that I do have the ability now at the company to put a floor plan on their backyard, and we can basically see that it can meet the setbacks of the 4 feet from each side. We can see if we consider 600 or 700 square feet there. We can give them something tangible, so when they talk to the contractor, when they go to the city to start getting preliminary information, they'll have something to mark up and to see. And it'll save a lot of money before they spend thousands of dollars on a formal drawing package. Let's see what we can put on your property. Let's answer your questions, get you in a position to really move and make it a reality.
And one of the key points is just the basic due diligence to start at the feasibility. Can this even be done? Is it physically possible based on the space I have in my backyard? Is it possible based on, will my city allow it? Do I have an HOA I have to go through, or a community planning group that I have to go through?
No, sewer or septic.
Yeah, the utility issues. Yes. Can I get utilities there? And what if my backyard goes down, sewer doesn't flow uphill? So what do I do with that, right? So so doing the basic feasibility before you jump in too deep and hire a lot and pay a lot of money is super important. And then you can set forth a schedule and a budget and expectations and say, I think this is what we're looking at. We have a plan. And then start working through the process. So if you have a piece of property and you think it's large enough to put, it doesn't have to be that large. It's just, a small ADU will fit on a fairly small chunk of land back there. But if you want to find out if it's even feasible, and if you want to figure out, okay, if I do this, how would I pay for it? Could I rent it out? Who would I rent it to? How would I rent it out? How do I manage that? How do I make sure they have their own access to the backyard without disrupting what's going on with the family? These are the questions that are just the beginning questions.
Exactly.
And Dr. Sharon can help you with that. Through ADU Advantage. You want to connect with her and ask her the question. Send her an email at aduadvantageca@gmail.com and just ask the question. Hey, I got this property. I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Can you give me some advice? Connect with her and find out what's going on. So we're almost out of time. If there's one thing you wanted to to tell our listeners that may be looking at this or considering it, what is it? What's the one thing you want to make sure they understand?
That they understand that there's a lot of information out on the internet and there's a lot of buzz about ADUs, but it's not like buying a pair of shoes. It varies depending on your lot and your information and what you're working with. And so you really do need to make a commitment if you're serious on moving forward. And we have services from the do-it-yourselfers all the way to putting you in contact with the one-stop construction company, ground up or modular. But you have to get off the sidelines. You can't just stand at the side of the lake and see how deep the center is without walking in a little bit. So if you're willing to invest and move forward, we can definitely help you make your ADU a reality.
Fantastic. So dip the toe in without a full commitment, find out what's going on, and then you can move forward from there. So Dr. Sharon Barnes, thank you for being on the show. Again, she is at aduadvantageca@gmail.com, or go to aduadvantagenow.com. aduadvantagenow.com is the website. Find out the information. I am Steve Matley. This is Building Solid Foundations. We want to thank Dr. Sharon Barnes for sharing her journey into real estate and all about ADUs. We will be back next week, like we are every week, right here on KCAA Radio. And until next week, go do something different.
Miss your favorite show? Download